Another thing that comes to my mind is getting up in the morning and feeling emotional freedom. Now, I have a way of doing that that goes beyond business, of course, spiritual freedom from my faith. And yet, you don't have to take it that far if you're not ready for it. Emotional freedom comes from doing good work in the world, knowing for certain that you're actually able to help people. And that makes your job stress free. So, stress is the opposite of emotional freedom. If you're stressed out, you're emotionally trapped. And so you got to get rid of that in your life. And if you feel and you might just indicate to us here who here feels sometimes the tail's trying to wag the dog. And Evan knows him, as I run a company of 50 people, we don't let the tail wag the dog. But life could be like it just starts trying to wag you instead of you wagging it. So if you're sort of fed up with struggling to get new clients and things like that, pay attention to what I have to say because you're going to learn in this presentation how to get more emotional freedom. Now, geographical freedom is a real obvious one. Evan just said, Reed, you're not in the same place as usual. Well, I could move anywhere in the world that has internet. And I have worked from different countries because of the internet. It was very emancipating for me in the very beginning to just start to travel and do telemedicine. That's what we called it 6 years ago. When I was doing it, I was lecturing farther and farther away from my office. So I was part of a big wellness center and I would lecture, and I ran out of libraries in our town. And I started going to other libraries farther and farther away. As I got up to about 90 miles away, I didn't mind driving. I'd go drive 90 miles to talk to 25 people at a library. But I realized they weren't going to drive the 90 miles to my office. So I had to create what's they're calling telemedicine or distance coaching. And back then it was a little harder because we didn't have all the internet and Zoom and things like that. I had to send them packages of information, go over it on the telephone. But I would have the customer and their spouse listening on another landline, things like this. So geographical freedom became really important 25 years ago. Now it's even more important as we love to travel. And we do have Zoom and ways to do that. And I want you to know everyone can do it. There's no person listening to this that can't have the freedoms we've talked about. Now, the last one, and not the least one, is financial freedom. And I would just say, who here wants to quit worrying if the bills are going to get paid and wants the security of steady income and money in the bank? Because as much as we're all altruists, and we are, I'm an altruist, I do a lot of charity work, but my business is my business and my charities are my charity. So if you'd like to increase your cash practice, create multiple streams of income for the security and freedom that brings in, just sort of pay attention. No, let me ask this, Evan. If I could show the people listening just one of these freedoms, how to truly attain just one of these, maybe two, would it be worth your attention today? You think it'd be worth them paying attention? I think
I
so.
think it would. And guys, let us know in the chat. Let's stay engaged with it. We appreciate you guys starting off the morning so engaged. But I mean, actually think about what Reed is talking about because I don't know that people can comprehend this stuff, Reed. Like even the geographical freedom, if you have never experienced that, the idea that like Maddie and I are moving to Austin, just like you were able to move across the country really quick. And I was moving to Wilmington, North Carolina from Pennsylvania. That privilege of being able to say, oh, I can go, and I'm just talking within the United States. It's like Maddie and I have talked about what if we went to Italy for a month? We could do that, right? I might do my podcasts a little bit later in the night, but I can do that. Our marketing director works out of Athens, Greece. So guys, just tell us, yeah, if one of these could be achieved, would that be worth it? Because I think even just the geographical one is so amazing. So Mackenzie says absolutely. I'm glad one person is interested in this. And Christina, my husband and I would love to move to Costa Rica from Toronto. That sounds like a heck of a weather change. That'd be awesome. Sarah said 100%. Thank you guys. Now you're getting in there. Juliana, yes. So yes, it seems like they would all agree that at least one of these would be worth it.
Excuse me. So look, in the next 30 minutes, and thank you, Evan, for chiming in. Please butt in anytime. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you a simplifying and unifying approach that outperforms any other system we know of. It increases revenues and creates freedom in your life without you having to completely overhaul your business or having to go back to school for another 2 or 3 or 4 more years. I'll show you a reliable and repeatable and proven, easily duplicated methodology that was developed while working with thousands of people and that's been taught to thousands of practitioners since 2008. And I think we're the only, people call us a school, uh, we're the only course that could promise you that, that is derived from that type of history. And it will create freedom in your life. And thousands of people have been helped. If you remember the first slide, we're all do-gooders here. And we know your struggles here at FDN. So a little bit about my background. I'm a motorcycle enthusiast and I go out riding and I get some of my best thoughts. This is in the desert of Southern California, which looks pretty dry and dead. It's actually a thriving ecosystem when you look deeply at it. But the idea was that I was out there one day. I'd started working in this clinic, and everyone coming in the clinic had been to 6 or 8 or 10 different practitioners already. And it kind of drove me nuts. Personally, I'd never really been to a doctor, so I didn't know what that was like. I've been for a few boo-boos, crash here and there, or sports injury. But man, these people are coming in, and what do you mean you've seen 10 people and you're not better yet? It kind of ticked me off. And so while out riding my bike, as crazy as I am, I decided I was going to be the last person that people needed to see. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I never let that stop me before. I had an awful lot to learn. We're talking 1999, so a long time ago. I had an awful lot to learn, but I had nothing to unlearn. Had no dogma, no restrictions, no handcuffs, other than just I really, really, really want to help these people. Now you could see that I had come from the environmental law field as a conservationist at the time, uh, saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees. And when I moved into the clinic, I just wanted to change jobs and start working with people instead of, the flora and fauna of the planet. I got sick of seeing that. And one day, actually, a friend of mine, his dad died suddenly and everyone kept went to the funeral and the different. Oh, he was perfectly healthy. He was perfectly healthy until he dropped dead. Well, I knew something was wrong with him. Like that was not true. There had to be something going on. So I determined to figure out a system, and I spent the next 10 years working in that clinic. And the gift that was given to me was mostly running the labs. I was allowed to run labs at that clinic. Now I wasn't a physician. I did was working on a nutrition certificate and personal training certificate. I think I got 15 certificates while I worked there. But what I'm going to show you now is how functional lab testing, how I discovered that functional lab testing can increase your credibility as a health coach or any other practitioner you have. And it's a new way to work with clients, get better results, and build a referral practice, how you can run functional lab work and use the test results to individualize protocols without laying down any medical diagnosis, be the last person the client needs to see because you have finally solved their health problems, and of course, how to earn over 6 figures in cash as a health entrepreneur doing what you love to do. And there's just a few simple things to learn here as we go through it. What is the cycle of trial and error? What is metabolic chaos? What are healing opportunities? Designing a dress for health success program and running the program. Now, if this seems like too much for a Monday morning, I'm sorry, but I am a teacher and I'm going to go over my stuff. And for those of you paying attention, you're going to walk away with something that is really incredible. So, in the idea of this cycle of trial and error, Evan, you can drop in anytime because you know this stuff as well as I do now. So, people that were coming in our office 6 years ago. And today it hasn't changed much. They're going to the doctor's office and being told everything looks normal. Oh, your blood work's normal. Yet they feel like crap. Or they might be told, oh, this is off. Here's your pills to bring the test results back into range. So that's the most common approach you find today in the modern medical system. Here's something to bring your test results into range. We call that treating the paper, not the person. So if you're told normal and you feel something's wrong, you're right, something's wrong. But there's a system, that system isn't looking for it, what's wrong. Now, so what people do, the common person, what are they going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to go try a new diet. You're going to go try a new product. You're going to go try another therapy. And that's what all of the clients coming in, or they were patients of the doctors. I was the helper dude. You know, my job, and the doctors used to laugh. Haha, Reed, you can't diagnose or treat anything. You're going to have to find out what's really wrong with them. Well, I took that on quite gladly, actually. And what I wanted to say about this system of trial and error, it's not only not filling the needs gap in the patient, it's not filling the needs of anybody. It's not even filling the needs of the practitioner. Well, this system makes money, and selling diets makes money, and selling products makes money, and providing therapies makes money for the practitioner. If their clients aren't getting well, they are going to lack in that emotional freedom. They're going to be always searching for the next new patient because they're not getting anyone well. They're not thriving off of referrals. I hope this is making sense. I'm kind of ad-libbing just a little bit here. Then we have just, I can't tell you how many hundreds, dozens. Our AFDNP association, which is a Association of FDN Professionals that was developed because even the first students I ever taught in 2008, they just didn't seem to want to go away. I said, no, now you know how to do it. Go forth and multiply. And they said, no, we need to know more. We have to know more. We want to hang out together and have fun and stuff. So there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people like this young lady. Her name is Brianna. Evan, you probably know her. And she was stuck in that cycle of trial and error with her personal health and with her business. She had tried one coaching program after the next. So I'm going to cut to the chase and just say that that we have, the cycle of trial and error is not unknown, and it's not that hard to get out of when you know which steps to take. Now, she got on a path to improve her own health. Her confidence improved dramatically, and she was then able to enroll her clients on the same pathway or stairway. Now she's a leading AFDNP member, has a thriving waiting list practice. And by the way, Evan, I had to tell someone the other day that I had a waiting list of 6 months. There's no way I could take on a new client right now.
Mhm.
And so thank God I'm able to refer her. But here I gave her the name because we have a registration on her website of people she could contact. Reach out to these amazing people who are all certified in FDN. Now I'm going to talk the second question. First, I said, we talked about the cycle of trial and error. So you know what that is. Now, what is metabolic chaos? Little did I know when I coined that phrase, it would become the paradigm not only for FDN practitioners, but for the future of healthcare. It's the single most successful system that leads to health for anyone, anywhere, and would be adopted by physicians and allied health practitioners alike. That's what's happening. The medical system is actually evolving. It's been evolving since I started observing it. And what it's going to evolve into is understanding metabolic chaos. Now, what that is the result of multiple causal factors. Remember, I went to work in a lab in a clinic running lab work. Went to work in a clinic running lab work. In 10 years, I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. And What was I looking for? Underlying causes and conditions. The root cause. I used to have that in my signature bar on my emails. Once I finally got email, that said, "I seek for the root cause." And I realized that it's kind of almost nonsense in a way. You're never going to find one root cause. If you look hard enough, though, in every client, you will find multiple causal factors. Now, like the rings on this surface here, if those are the multiple causal factors, and everyone has multiple causal factors, not only are they having their direct effect, they're affecting each other and in ways that can't be measured or can't be singly measured. And I'm a guy who teaches a course in lab work. I know a little bit about measuring things, and I'm not bragging or boasting. I'm just saying that I've seen this millions of times. These multiple causal factors have an effect on each other and create a complete rippled surface. And that's what's going on inside a body. That's why we call it metabolic chaos. It's just a really simple, accurate term. And it doesn't behoove you to try to figure out which circle came first, which is the most important circle. No, what we developed was a system that looks at all the circles, all the causal factors, and then sorts them out with the lab work. Now, I'm going to just, uh, for 1 second here, I wanted to, I don't know how to mute myself. So I have a tickle in my throat.
I muted you. So we'll have to unmute you now. There you go.
So yeah, I just moved to Florida and the weather's a little different here, and I somehow got a little tickle in my throat. So I used to call this the stress cascade, and now we call it the metabolic chaos cascade because it's a more accurate term. It's really what's going on. So hidden stress and imbalances, all those causal factors. You got the environment, you got food, you got pathogens, you've got electromagnetic frequencies, you got radiation, you've got your spouse is mad at you. You've got your job that you don't like. You got traffic. You got every kind of hidden stress and imbalance, things that lead to imbalance, and they flow into the body. If you don't resolve it real quick, it cascades into other areas. And in our view, metabolic chaos is what ensues. Remember, multiple rings, multiple causal factors not getting resolved, having an effect on other parts of the body and on each other, and there's metabolic chaos. Now, eventually, it can cause dysfunction in the body, something serious, leading to disease and symptoms. Now, what's the problem here? Well, in our view, the problem is the metabolic chaos. And depending on one's individual weak links in metabolism, you get different dysfunction. Everyone's different. You could have the exact same 6 or 8 or 10 stressors, but because people are so different, this thing called metabolic individuality is what makes our job so much fun and interesting and turns us into good detectives. So we get to sort that out. We know the problem is metabolic chaos, but we know there are individual weak links. So the dysfunction and even further metabolic individuality leads to the disease and symptoms. Now, that's how the problem appears or shows up. Now, I'm just going to stop for 1 second and tell you that anyone who thinks or says that an individual, one lab, even two, is the magic bullet you need to solve the problem, you should run away from them.
Hmm.
Someone says, well, it sounds like thyroid and wants to test your thyroid, you got a problem right there. So this is happening not only in standard medicine, but even in functional medicine. There's a lot of reductionism going on. Everyone wants to reduce everything to they start with the problem, how it appears or shows up, and they might go up one level, and run a test, and here's your problem. No, I'm sorry, mute me up. I apologize for that. Um, I'm here to tell you, Your clients and patients want more than one lab and diagnosis. They want an individualized pathway to move forward. And you need a systematic approach to understanding and resolving all of your clients' problems. That doesn't mean you don't niche, doesn't mean you can't specialize in helping people with IBD or migraine headaches or bad skin or you name it, whatever your favorite thing is. Yeah, you could market to that group. But the truth is, you're going to do your work by resolving metabolic chaos. So that whatever they have going on will end up disappearing. So why don't we treat the disease? Why don't we just diagnose it and treat the disease? Because it leaves too many healing opportunities unaddressed. Now that's a key word, healing opportunities. That's what we look at. We don't look for diagnosis and treatment. Matter of fact, we want nothing to do with diagnosis and treatment of specific things. We want to look at as many healing opportunities as possible. And those opportunities are up in the rapids. And I'm going to show you in a sec how we navigate through those with our functional lab testing. And as we sort out metabolic chaos and every identifiable tributary, we create an individualized pathway to balance and resiliency. Now, what is balance and resiliency? It's health. That is health, balance and resiliency. So, what is our one concern? It's metabolic chaos. If we ever use the word diagnosis, I would have one metabolic chaos. Symptoms don't matter. The root cause may never be known, but that's okay. That root cause could be undetectable and very far removed from what one predicts or even measures. But that doesn't matter. You can have a positive effect upon it when you know what steps to take. Now, how are we doing on time here, Evan? I'm rolling along. I have a lot of slides to go through, but I'm feeling okay about this so far.
Yeah, we're doing great. Technically speaking, we still have 52 minutes allotted. So for every summer open house session, guys, it's actually a good time to say this. We have a full 90 minutes. Typically, what most sessions are going to look like is 45 to 60 minutes of presentation followed by Q&A. Doesn't have to be that way with every session, but yes, Reed, we're perfectly good on time.
So, symptoms don't matter. They're not the problem, they're the result of the problem. And the root cause may never be known. There's not enough labs. And again, I've been teaching lab work for 17 years, and there just isn't enough. I'm in on a lot of development of new labs, by the way. But it doesn't matter. You can have a positive effect upon all the root causes when you know what steps to take. Now, there's good news, and I'm getting right now into the nitty gritty. Um, there's 3 steps to resolving metabolic chaos. Assess hidden underlying conditions and contributors to metabolic chaos. Assess, assess. We run our labs, we take histories, we do things. And then we customize a DRESS for health success program. More about that in a minute. Number 3, run the program. That's all there is to it. And I can teach just about anyone. Matter of fact, again, with a team of 50 people, we have an amazing crew to get you through all the learning that you have to do. So let's look at step 1 a little more closely. Identify healing opportunities. These are not diagnoses or names of a cluster of symptoms. This is what's really wrong with the person. And it generally will fall. And this is what I learned in that 10 years running thousands of labs on thousands of people. HIDDEN, hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system. There's also oxidative stress, a couple other things, but this is a good place to start. We do a stress and hormone panel, metabolic wellness profile, mucosal barrier assessment, pathogen and microbiome testing, and on every single person, metabolic typing and food sensitivity screening. Now, that is a comprehensive intake that will help you sort out metabolic chaos. It's identify an entire constellation of healing opportunities, of causal factors, and connect the dots. Now you've got all the data you need to produce a program for someone. So a little bit more deeply into that. Remember, symptoms and lab values are not the problem. They're the results of the problem. Very often, I'm sick of hearing it, a practitioner will run a lab, go, I found your problem. Look, this is low or this is high. That's not the problem. That number is just a result of the problem. Just like symptoms, what's truly at cause is these chronic stress-related dysfunctions, dysbiosis, gut malfunction, mucosal barrier biofilm toxins, poor nutrient breakdown and absorption, and so on, and so on, and so on. All of these things show up in our lab work, and we run it from day one. When you have all of this data, then you understand in a person their version, their personalized, what they have their arms around, whether they want to or not, is this is your metabolic chaos. And many of you might be thinking right now, well, I already ran HPA axis and adrenal dysfunction test. Yes, maybe you did. You might have even done a liver detoxification test or something like that. But you didn't look at all of the constellation of healing opportunities, look at how they're related to each other, and then come up with a program based on the data to apply wellness principles. So identify these and more. This is a partial list, hidden stressors and risk factors, then apply the wellness principles. So step one, as we said, was to run the labs, take the history, get the forms filled out and things, then get the data back. And when you get the data back, now you can go to the person and clinically correlate all of that data. That data will explain exactly why they feel the way they do, which is really enlightening. Evan, tell me, it's really enlightening, and people sort of flip out. They just can't believe that you sorted this out. Evan, tell me you've had someone say, how come no one else ran this test or these tests?
Well, it was especially funny too when I first started off because I did some stuff with like family and friends at a lower cost. I mean, I was 21 without a college degree, which is not really typical for FDNs. Most of us are college educated in some way. And so that I had maybe some unfounded imposter syndrome, but then I started to get better and people really couldn't believe that. And then I would do this stuff with them. And I think what was so amazing for them is how is this guy, again, and me in particular, without these formal credentials per se, going through this and helping me in a way that I've never been helped, despite having spent thousands of dollars or been to practitioners with a million letters after their name. And it's not because anyone else out there is bad or stupid or something like that. It's that if you have the wrong system for the types of problems that you're looking at, that's what occurs. And I've shared this a million times, Reed, but it's worth saying because there's a bunch of people on for the first time. My mom, guys, she was significantly sicker than me. And she is willing to share this publicly, and I appreciate it because my mom and dad, had humble beginnings. She was a waitress most of my adult life most of my childhood and teenage years, and my dad was a landscaper. And they spent over $100,000 on my mom's health. And you don't really need to be an expert at math or know much about those careers to know they didn't have $100,000 to spend on those things. And then she ended up working with an FDN a couple of years after I went through it because she saw what was happening to me. And Reed, you know this, but again, they wouldn't. I had certain conditions that my mom had, and she was watching them go away. She couldn't believe that they were going away. So I ended up having her work with my mentor at FDN, Jen Maleka. Jen Maleka is going to be our keynote speaker this month, guys. So definitely, I'll tell you about that later, but make sure that you have June 26th marked off on your calendar. So I had her work with Jen. At the time, Jen was charging less than she does now. Jen is an experienced practitioner. She was charging $5,000. And my mom still says on video and microphones, so all recorded to this day, that 5,000 was the best 5,000 her and my dad spent on her health, and he backs this too, versus the over $100,000 they spent on traditional healthcare means to try to get her fixed up and feeling better. So again, this is not, and Reed makes this very clear. I just want to always express this directly so you guys know what we're about and what we're not about. This is not something like anti-Western medicine or they're bad and stupid. It's just a different system. And that system's being used for a lot of these chronic health conditions where you only need to be going through that for about a few months to realize it's not the best system for that.
Right on, Ev. Good story and all true. And it's absolutely not a bash on Western medicine, because when you need it, and you go get it, and get the life preserver on maybe. But then you're ours. This is the true area that has to be worked on. And this came out of this came out of being in the office that was a very busy office, where I got to kind of triage every patient coming in. They were coming in for mostly pain and um, different problems, but then it turns out they had all these other problems too. And that's what I wanted to work with them on. Was everything else going on besides your neck pain or back pain or whatever it was. And so that's how this developed over 10 years. It's thousands of labs and thousands of people sorting out what I just told you, the HIDDEN stressors. Those labs I just showed you are uh, just a small handful of labs that I ran, but they're the key to figuring out the true healing opportunities. Now, that was step one. So if all it took was step one, we'd all be millionaires. Just run the labs, figure out what's wrong. No, step two is design a program where you apply these wellness principles, restore balance and resiliency by addressing all the healing opportunities that you just got the data for. And it's really remarkable. And you've all heard about diet. We use metabolic typing plus food sensitivity testing. For rest, it just depends on the person. Some people work night shift. And by the way, rest is more than just getting a good night's sleep. You need to rest your spirit and your emotions, and you could do it almost any time of day when you know how. And of course, exercise goes without saying. But at 72, let me tell you, I'm not doing the same routine I was doing at 22, because it would hurt me. So you got to know the right kind of exercise. And stress reduction along with diet might be the two biggest areas, because there's stress is so ubiquitous, but we do that. And then finally supplementation. So this is a process so effective, FDN was granted a registered trademark by the USPTO, because it works. It's so effective and it sounds so simple. But step two is design a data driven DRESS. It depends on the person and that data that you got on that person, obviously highly correlated with their way they're showing up. Now, one is run the assessment, two is design the program, three obviously is to run the program. This is why health coaches flock to FDN. This is why health coaches love our program, because they've been doing this part. They've been doing the coaching. Um, they but they don't have the data and they don't have the program. So this is why it fills in tremendous blank for them. And this is where some practitioners need to do some work. It's not enough to just say, hey, I ran the labs, here's your program, come back in 3 months. That's not going to work either. So you have to do all three. People are going to go through three basic phases. Relief care, should feel better real fast. Know that you're on the right track. Corrective phases last, it varies from person to person and what the combination of problems is. And then maintenance is where you've taught that person probably almost everything you know, so they can go do it themselves. They could even, it would spill over onto their families, and you get an awful lot of good work done that way. Now, I like to say this, there's no power boating to health, meaning it's like sailing. There's wind in the sails, there's waves slapping up against the bow, there's currents under the water. Everyone has different size keel and rudder and things like that. So you zigzag. There is going to be some zigzagging. There's going to be some course correction. And that's why running the program, it's so important to hire a health coach. If we have doctors now that we've trained that have 3 or 4 or even 5 different health coaches working for them to help them run the program. So this is an amazing expanding field. And why I say that the 5 freedoms really aren't that hard to achieve when you identify them and go after them. and organize yourself so that you have the training and acumen to really help people. Run the labs, design the protocol for them, and then help them run the program. And so it's as simple as this. We're just going to tiny bit of review. It's all the healing principles, which could be called innate intelligence or strategic reserve or metabolic reserve in a person, versus metabolic chaos and the contributors to metabolic chaos. And so what we do is coach up the balance and resiliency. We coach up every function in the body: heart, lungs, pancreas, kidneys, ovaries, testes, if you got them, you name it, the cells, tissues, organs, the entire system, with diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplements. Did I say drugs? No, we're completely 100% drug-free system. And that's why you don't have to be licensed to do it. It's beautiful if you are, so you can combine therapies where medicine might be important, but this is a completely holistic, natural coaching up of every cell, tissue, organ, and system in the body. While at the same time, you've got to be able to identify the hidden stressors. Known stressors are easy. I hate my job. Well, learn to like it or change it. Hidden stressors are the tough ones. That's where the lab comes in. In any case, all knowable contributors to metabolic chaos. Remember that all the tributaries, all the stressors, and you coach those down. And guess what you get? You get healthy, happy people who have more joy in their lives. Who are willing to, if you're a practitioner, pay you for that. That's our profession. This is not a hobby for most people. My hobbies cost me money, but my profession makes me money. And so this is how you end the cycle of trial and error. Whatever else they've been doing, Dr. Thaddeus J. Schmidlap, here's my favorite. Everyone's got something for you. They'll sell you anything. They'll talk you into whatever it is, but it's not going to work. So then there's this huge gap. Now, what we do, and you know this, I'm sure uh, you haven't heard it. This isn't the first time you heard it. Don't chase the symptoms. Aha, but also don't treat the paper. And understand this, the root cause may never be known. But remember what you said about that. That doesn't matter. We sort out metabolic chaos, identify the healing opportunities, apply principles of health building. That's what ends the cycle of trial and error. And both your clients' needs and your needs are met, not just financially, but emotionally as well. And so that's how you end the cycle of trial and error. It might be good just to put some icing on the cake here, Evan, and say that we have these various precepts. I love this one, that healing occurs when the healing process is focused on identifying and removing contributors to metabolic chaos. This is where Detective Ev thrives, right in this: identifying and removing contributors to metabolic chaos and supporting function. You 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 change the person's behavior. It's corrective behavior and all natural therapies. I want you to know, folks, today that you're not alone. Whether you're hugely successful, if you are, you can expand your business, do more good in the world, helping people to look, feel, and perform at their best. If you're not hugely successful, same thing. You can join a community and start reaching your goals. And now's the time. The Summer Open House, and we're just kicking it off. It's going to be an amazing experience for you over the next few weeks. Detective Ev is going to take you through it all. We have some amazing guests coming up. But Ev, if it's okay and if I have time, I'm just going to go over a little bit about what we offer for the FDN course. Would anyone like to hear that?
Yeah,
Would
guys,
anyone like to?
let us know in the chat. And like Reed said, obviously we have the entire month. You're going to learn a lot about different FDNs, hear from different FDNs. But we figured we'd start you off with this so you can have a good idea and make an informed decisions throughout the month. So I'm sorry that I don't know how to pronounce your name. Brizalba. Said most definitely. Deborah said yes, please. Well, we only need about 2 yeses to say I think we're good to go.
Okay. All right.
Angela said
So
yes.
look, so you're not alone. And if so, thank you. I would love the opportunity to present how you can do this, how you can become an FDN, and it's such a joyful thing. Here we go. So here's what we offer. We all want to do more good in the world. That's a given. Everyone on this call is a do-gooder, wants to help others, but also wants to make a good living doing it. And you want to get your own health. You want to get your health freedom. You want emotional freedom by knowing you're doing good work. Get up every day with a purpose in your life. The geographical freedom means, yeah, you can go from Toronto to Costa Rica or any other darn place you want. I spent an awful lot of time in the last few years in Cabo, Mexico. Never missed a day's work. Never, unless I wanted to go fishing or something like that. The time freedom is unbelievable. You can, when you look, I'll teach you how to set your schedule so you don't see clients more than 10 hours a week. You will not see clients. If you do, you're going to burn yourself out. I will teach you how to make all the money you really need to have health freedom, work on your own health. With about 10, maybe 12 if you're a real sucker for punishment. But 10 hours a week is all you need to spend with clients. And then you'll have financial freedom too. Your bills will be paid, you'll have money in the bank, and that's freedom. So imagine what you could do with that. Remember, I started off lecturing in a 90-mile radius. I used to have to mail those people because I would take test kits with me. I'd distribute test kits. These women would chase me out to the parking lot to get them out of the trunk of my car and fight over them and stuff. I'm doing a lecture, or I'd mail the test kits. And made really good money. And I'm talking about before cell phones, before the internet, really. Before, there was internet, but it wasn't like today. I did it all basically with a pager and a fax machine and mailing out these big thick packages of printed material, and I'd have the customer on the phone, usually with their spouse, listening on a back room, landline. Now you take an FDN practitioner today, they're working 900 miles away, 9,000 miles away from anywhere. Zoom, Skype, the entire internet, social media times about 10 channels. I don't even know what social media is, but I know it's a good thing. Evan's a master of it. You got your email list, your blogs, your Facebook, your all these things. And Jen here, when she first joined FDN, told me she was making about 65,000 a year on a good year. She went in her first year to 120, and she's now making over 300,000 a year. Actually, that was about 2 years ago. She told me that she could be doing better than that now. But this is a system that was developed in the trenches with really hard work. And I don't want everyone to have to work that hard. You don't have to drive 90 miles away to speak at a library anymore, like I did. So, and by the way, so I get asked this question all the time, Evan. Um, you get, I won't, well, let me put it this way. We're fully approved and accredited by multiple other accrediting bodies. And you will get, with your FDN certification, you have to join this group, the American Association of Drug Practitioners. They will give you a HHP certificate because they value the FDN training so much. Also approved for CEUs by a number of other groups. So here's the plan. Decide who on your team is best suited to do this. Now, I'm assuming here that we might have some chiropractors or acupuncturists or people who have a staff. I think you, your staff, or both of you should take this course. Just enroll. We have multiple staff discounts available if you're signing up more than one person, and then come and learn. Now, I don't have any codes or anything for you, but I think we could probably get some of those slipped into the chat there somewhere or something like that.
For
And
staff, they're going to want to reach out to a team member. So I'll put that for you guys right below and then read what I had not announced yet. And guys, we're going to be sharing this on every single session this month. And it's true for the whole month. Summer Open House is one of my favorite events for a variety of reasons that I shared, but one that I didn't share yet is because we do a month long discount on the course. It is $17.50 off the course price for both pay in full and payment plans all month long. You do not need a special code if you're signing up as an individual. To Reed's point, though, if yes, you do have staff members and you want that additional thing, you have the link below. But all you have to do the entire month is just go to the website, functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com, and the discounts are automatically applied the entire month, which is fantastic.
I'm seeing here from Olga that she went to ChatGPT for help on how to be a better health coach. And they said, oh, take the FDN course. And it is amazing. I love what they have to say about us. No one can find anything bad about FDN. We've kept our noses clean for 27 years in the health space. Remember, I came from with a law background, so I was doing environmental law and conservation, and so I know a few things about that. And I was able to break into the health field and never ever be accused of practicing medicine without a license. Yet I was running labs and labs and labs and labs and labs. And how could you do that? You're not a doctor. Well, you don't have to be.
Mhm.
When I started the FDN course, there were just two direct to consumer programs, and one of them was mine, the FDN program. So I had to create that to be able to teach other practitioners. Now there's 50. There's 50 companies doing direct to consumer, meaning that anyone can run labs anytime. So don't worry about that. It's what you do with the data that matters. Now, Evan, I've got all the time in the world for any questions or anything like that. I hope that the Five Freedoms presentation was meaningful to you. You know, if you only got one of those from taking the FDN course, just see your health. People have taken the FDN course, and because you run all the labs on yourself, you run all the labs on yourself. They're all paid for as part of your tuition. All the consultations you'll get with the mentors, it's all paid for with your tuition. If that's all you got from the FDN course was your own health back, wouldn't that be worth the price of admission?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
For sure. Guys, if you have questions for Reed, please drop them below. I actually have a question for you guys. I'd like to know which one of the five freedoms is the one that you're working on the most, because similar to what Reed brought up about with the ladder, you know, you're never fully at the top. You can work at all of these things at any given time in your life. So I'd love to know which one of the freedoms you guys are most interested in working on. I'll be transparent, and I probably this is the one that I'm infinitely going to be working on. I always like working on the financial freedom one. And as you evolve, your goals get bigger, right? Because it can start with financial freedom for you. And then Reed and me are very similar with this. It's like, well, then it can be financial freedom for your wife. And then I think, well, wait, what about my mom? You know, she's working. I don't think she wants to be doing exactly what she's doing right now. I might be able to provide financial freedom for her in the next year here. Now, my dad's going to be a tougher one. He's going to need to see a pretty big check before he's willing to quit anything. And I could work with that. But for me, that's one of the biggest ones that I'm interested in. And I think we live in this unbelievable time, guys. And I know that no matter what side of news you follow, it's easy to get into all the negativity. But the reality is, there's never been a better time to be alive overall. Why? Because we can do things like this. We got almost 100 of you on right now. Reed's in Florida. I'm in North Carolina. We got staff members in various places around the country and in the world. This is a good time to be alive. You can connect with other individuals that you've never been able to connect to. You can serve hundreds of thousands, millions of people on social. You can serve 100 people, and it works just fine as an FDN. That's a solid business over a couple year span. So let's go read some of these. Brizalba, sorry, got that right. Health freedom for me, my family, and my peers. Fair enough. I would actually say that if you don't have that health freedom, Reed, would you agree that if that gets taken away, that's the one that almost always becomes top priority, even more than financial? Everyone wishes that they had the health, right?
Yeah, well, you know, if you ask Warren Buffett, probably one of the richest men in the world, um, would you want more money or would you like more health?
Hmm.
He's going to say, you can have my billions. And he said this, something like this. You could take every dime I have, billions and billions of dollars, Make me 20 again.
Yeah.
Because he'd do the same thing all over. He'd just become rich again. He just wants health. That's all really at this age you want. So you got to value it when you're younger so you can do, we do the whole anti-aging, longevity and all that. Um,
I saw a good question come up in the Q&A. I promise we'll get back to the other freedoms guys, but this is important. Um, Ilana, I'm in New York. Would I be able to order the lab? So what can we do for our friends in New York State?
We do serve New York. There's lots of FDNs successfully operating in New York. They do have restrictions as well on some of the labs, but not all the labs. And so the New Yorkers, God bless them, are thrivers. If you're a New Yorker, you're a thriver, right? And so are the rest of us, but it's actually kind of humorous because there are ways to get the lab done in New York. And by the way, there's some other restrictive states, New Jersey, Delaware, Rhode Island. There's some things like that. But part of the freedom movement is much deeper for me. I won't go into a lot of detail right now, but the medical freedom movement is huge. And when you join FDN, you'll be supporting the medical freedom movement. It really is deep. And besides the five freedoms we talked about, medical freedom would be having your choice of what type of medical care you want without anyone trying to cram anything down your throat, what you want and what you don't want. No one should force any certain medical treatment on anyone else. It should be completely up to the individual, and there should be a lot more choices. So we're part of that movement to a point.
Which is
I
awesome.
mean, to your point, 100%. I like the comments about time and finances because they're kind of synced together. You need to make a good living, I would say a really good living, and that puts FDN into a category of professional services, kind of like law. I see some similarities. I came from that background. It's a fee for service. And what you don't want is a good cheap lawyer, right? You ever say, hey, I need a cheap lawyer? No one ever said I need a good cheap lawyer except the Three Stooges. Okay, so what you want is a good lawyer, and you're going to pay the fee, whatever it is. And it's like that with FDN. I want a good hire a good FDN health coach or FDN health practitioner. And price is always secondary.
Mhm. Yeah, Juliana had said time and financial freedom. I think you're looking at that. Christina said, I'm in the course for the same reason, different health issues. I'm essentially becoming the practitioner I needed. Wow. I love that last line. That's exactly how I felt. Because I went to natural medicine doctors too, Christina, personally, in my health journey. And I would say the same thing about those natural medicine doctors as my Western medicine doctors. I did not experience some of the more extreme gaslighting that people do. I know that that exists, but no one ever told me that it was in my head per se. It was more just, hey, we don't know what the heck's wrong with you. Or the things that they gave me were either unhelpful or sometimes even hurt, right? If I took a medication and it gave me side effects that actually were worse than the original problem. So, yeah, you kind of become the practitioner that you need, and that inspires this infinite passion to go do this work and spread this message because you just walk around seeing other human beings who you know are suffering like you once were, and then you need to go help them. So it's it's bittersweet. It's bitter when you're dealing with it, but man, it's an amazing way to live your life at the end. Michelle Scarlett said, yes, you can reach around the world. Absolutely. Michelle will be doing a session for us later this month. Mackenzie
I
said,
like a
freedom.
question here
Sure.
about do other pharmacists who've got, we've had many pharmacists. Matter of fact, I was surprised that pharmacists, you think, oh, drugs. No, pharmacists are really good people who got in the business to help others. And they thought that that would be a good way to do it. A lot like nurses, they get in it to help. Then what they end up not liking is the drug part. So they want to expand the horizons a bit. Pharmacists can learn to run the labs too. You'll run your own labs, and then you'll be able to make your own protocols up. And you could have, I think you would have an endless supply of clients coming from the people coming into your pharmacy. There's no rules against soliciting anyone that walks into your pharmacy as your own customer,
Hmm.
just because they're being sent there to pick up a prescription. doesn't mean they aren't fair game for some alternative. Matter of fact, most pharmacies have plenty of vitamins and minerals and all kinds of things on the shelves, along with the whatever else is on there. And so I would think it'd be very fair game. And as to whether you could talk to someone else, I'm sure we could arrange that. We have pharmacists who are very happy being an FDN practitioner now.
Yeah. And I actually said this to Juliana in the chat, but I want to say this because again, we have recordings for this. So if you guys do end up getting the replays, someone out there is going to listen to this on the recording side. When we have nurses, doctors, pharmacists go through anything, any one of these more Western oriented um, backgrounds, when you add on the functional side, that's a win, right? You now have a lot of credibility. There is something to be said about someone. I know a ton of nurses who have gone through FDN and seen great success on the business side. There is something to be said about someone who went through the Western system, has that knowledge in their base, and keeps themselves level-headed. They're not biased extremely one way or the other, and then also adds on this functional side. I mean, from a client perspective, that's like the dream. Because even if you can't I can't practice as a nurse and an FDN at the same time, but I also can't strip that knowledge away from the person just because they have their different hat on. So it's really cool to get to work with people who have both backgrounds. They make some of the best practitioners. What other questions you guys got for Reed while he's on? And then I wanted to say too, I dropped this in the chat for you guys a few times here. I'll drop it once more. We have multiple sessions some of these days in Summer Open House. It gets a little crazy and fun over here. So we have very clinical coming up, and then we have very business after that. So at 12 o'clock Eastern, just about 48 minutes from now, we're going to have Brendan Vermeyer coming on talking to you guys about mold illness and your different options with that. So I promise Brendan is about as clinical as it gets and as nerdy as it gets. And then after that, 1:30 Eastern, back-to-back sessions in that afternoon part. 1:30 Eastern, we're going to have Mike Milner on, and he's going to be teaching you guys about email marketing. So remember, once you graduate from something like FDN or a health coaching program or whatever it is, you quickly realize one of the best things that you can do to achieve some, if not all, of the 5 freedoms Reed was talking about today is you want to work for yourself. That's one of the best ways to do it. And so come on the business sessions, even if you're not an entrepreneur type person yet, they're free. Come on, take some notes and see how much you can get from this. All right, so I see some people jumping in now. Okay, are you able to help me connect with FDNP pharmacists? I certainly am. Do me a favor. I'm going to send you it privately. I forgot I can do that. Email me here. It's only going to go to you. And then I will get you connected with some FDN pharmacists. Oh, this is M. I think you met M probably at Hicks last year. This is the M from Summer Open House of 2024. I'm glad she's here for 2025. My life goal is be able to understand everything Brendan says. Ha ha ha. That's funny. All right, this is probably for both of us. I'll read it. Mackenzie here. My personal health journey led me on this path back in 2021. I found a cellular health reset program online, which changed my life immensely. That's awesome. This opened my eyes to functional medicine and then health coaching, which I attended IIN after completing my 4-month cellular reset. When I found FDN, I felt it would allow me to do so much more with coaching clients. And Mackenzie, I believe you said you are a new trainee already, so welcome. I did IIN before FDN. It was an awesome transition. And Reed, I know you've always had positive things to say. It's a really good transition for people looking to take it to the next level if they have done something like IIN, right?
It's our kind of people.
Yep.
You want to help others and you want to up level your game. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, if you guys got any other questions for Reed, let us know. We do still have 15 minutes allotted for the session if we need it. I have a question for you, Reed, because I always get excited about this. So with so much moving and shaking in the industry, I think half of us are excited. Half of the people get nervous because they're going to get nervous about anything. But they see AI getting involved. There's new lab tests that are fancy all the time. And then yet I look at FDN and I know that we are bigger than ever before. We have more people out here doing work successfully than ever before. Our job board is more filled than ever before. It's a separate conversation we'll have later in the month with you guys. So we're in it. So we see the constant growth. But for those out there that just see a bunch of moving and shaking parts with AI, new labs, and all this, how do you see FDN fitting into this ever-changing landscape that's happening right now?
Fitting in perfectly, actually, because we're data driven. And so well, our protocols like to be data driven. So information is good. And AI is, with some of the things I use Perplexity. So if you haven't tried it, Perplexity, it's a good one. The Chat GPT, um, I think is good. And so play with it and learn how it can serve you. And that's the secret to success is making sure that it continues to serve us and we don't end up serving it at some point, because it's really smart. And I don't want to go there into any weird theories, like Skynet and stuff like that. But we have to be careful what we wish for. But it's a great tool. I've enjoyed using Perplexity. I use it every day, and I think it's wonderful. And it isn't contrary. Go to Perplexity and say, "Who's Reed Davis and what's FDN?" It'll give you. It kind of explains it. It's really cool, and
Yeah.
that's a good thing. So but as to whether I would ask it, hey, my mother's got a certain type of cancer, and what's the, I think I would be careful with something like that because you might get some ideas, you might get some thoughts. It's pretty mainstream, but what we don't want is doctors making their way through medical school using AI to cheat, and that's what you can do with it that makes it like kind of frightening a little bit.
Yeah, I was about to say I might have graduated college if we had AI the way that we had back then. I mean, this is a joke now, how we used to have to cheat in middle school. All right, so this is a great question, and this she might have missed this in the overall talk about this is why Reed said we don't do the sounds like method. So here's the question. Reed mentioned identifying hidden stressors and metabolic chaos. How do you determine which area to focus on first when a client presents with multiple overlapping issues?
Hey, that's a good question. And the answer is pretty simple, though. You start with their weakest area. And so we have our labs. We have again, this sort of constellation of healing opportunities and how they're presenting. And then we have the solution, which is DRESS. And so you would have them follow the protocol, and that restores health. The protocol is what restores health. You're not treating one specific thing, you're treating every cell, tissue, organ, and system at once. So, in terms of behavior, if diet's their weakest area, you would focus on that. You got to do them all simultaneously, but we allow for people to be humans, and we're not dictators. We're tough with tough love when it's needed, but you start with the weakest area. Generally speaking, that's not too hard to figure out. I hope that's not too obscure for you, but that's the simple answer.
Nancy, hi. Hello, Nancy. I do want to have financial freedom, and functional medicine interests me a lot. I want to know how you'd respond. What if I feel like I can't compete with the doctors, pharmacists, nurses, etc., because I don't have that kind of degree? Any kind of support for people not doing so well if that should happen? I have a million thoughts on this. I'll bite my tongue. So, what do you say about this?
It's a fair concern because in the big scheme of things, credentials are have been thrust upon us as very, very important. What what we have is a system that works. There is credentials involved, but no licensure because I don't think licensure is the right thing. Hold on again. This um, move has given me a little tickle here, but do you want a person with the most credentials, or do you want the person with the most knowledge and ability to help you? And there are credentials out there you could go for. Matter of fact, if I had to compare FDN to a credential, it'd be something like a 2 or 3 year degree from a prestigious naturopathic university. But those will cost you 65 grand. So for, let's say, around 10, you're going to get something, which, by the way, I've had many, 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 many master's degree and PhD degree people say, boy, I wish I'd have saved the 2 or 3 years, even 4 years, and all my money. People who go through those programs, including chiropractors come out 100 grand in debt, They have no office, no staff, no equipment, and no customers. FDN, you'll finish and hopefully you've paid for it, or you may have a small credit card bill, but you're going to work from home, and all you need is one customer to start being successful. You don't need an office, you don't need equipment, you don't need all those things. So to compare the two, there's just no comparison. So while we like degrees, I've been able to avoid them. The
I
money and
want
expense and time. Yeah, for to have them for no reason.
I'm still gonna jump in with this one because I'm so passionate about it, and it's a great question. First of all, Nancy, do us a favor. Please hop on some of the business sessions this month. If you can make all of them, great, but at least hop on some because that's going to help. But the specific question, right, that I wanted to get to, what if I feel like I can't compete with the doctors, pharmacists, nurses? Okay, awesome. And to Reed's point, that is a valid concern. I'm not just trying to flip the script in a cheesy way. I'm telling you what I actually believe. I'm not in competition with them. They're not doing the same things as me. Now, I'm not even saying they're not willing to do the same things as me in a perfect world. What Western medicine currently teaches, we have a pharmacist on. She can probably attest to this. I'm sure we have more Western medicine folks on. They could probably attest to this. What that system currently teaches is that we have to wait more or less for a cluster of symptoms to manifest or certain things to happen on their blood test results. Then we can slap this with a diagnosis. And when that diagnosis happens, we are going to treat it in such a way that focuses on the symptoms associated with that diagnosis. So either cutting something out, giving a medication, whatever. We're not saying that's inherently bad. Again, that can save lives. And in fact, every day, every minute of every day, it saves lives because we push ourselves quite a bit. But that's what's happening there. FDN, I can't do that even if I wanted to. I can't be doing surgery on my clients or giving them medications. So, what we are focused on is what led to the manifestation of this disease state, this dis-ease state, what led to the manifestation of these symptoms to begin with. We're going to go help them with that. So, the reason I don't believe I'm in competition with Western medicine at the time of us doing this live, I don't think we're addressing the same thing. I mean, we're certainly addressing closer things than like a plumber, right? I have more in common with a doctor than I do with a plumber for sure. But fundamentally, we are not addressing the same thing, or at least we're not addressing it at the same time. And if there comes a day, I've said this for 8 years, and in all reality, we're not that much closer. If there comes a day where I am actually, as an FDN, in competition with Western medicine because they're doing such a good job at addressing people with chronic illness, that is fantastic. I'm going to go find something else to do with my life and I will find another career path, I'm sure. I just think we are so far from that still that we need as many people out there doing this work. So, Nancy, what you need to do is own who you are. If you have a story, that is going to be your best marketing that is worth more than any letters that someone could put before or after your name. What has sold for me over these years is I was sick. I am not sick now. I can prove that to you. If you'd like to learn what I've learned, this is what I do. So, let us know if you'd like any more
That's
clarity, but
really
I hope that
good.
helps.
That's a great point. I took the other way of answering that question, but yeah, we're not in competition with doctors.
Mhm.
Look, if you are the victim of a drive-by shooting, you're not going to call your nutritionist. If you get off a plane from West Africa and your temperature's 105 and you're bleeding from your eyeballs, you're not going to call your FDN practitioner, no matter how much you love that person. You're going to go straight to emergency care and get the attendant care that you need to save your life, to stop the bleeding, to do things. And by the way, we have the best doctors in the world when it comes to that, all over, not just America. There's lots of people who are very skilled at urgent attendant care. The problem is that if all you know is disease care and damage care, then they're not the right people for what we do. So we're in two different sandboxes is the way to look at it. And credentials, I have a doctor of natural of nutritional therapy and stuff, but it doesn't mean much because FDN itself is a credential. It's being recognized more and more by multiple agencies and by the public, and I think you'll be okay.
Mhm.
The other stuff, a lot of it's ego. By the way, a lot of it gets into academic stuff that's meaningless and not helpful. And so I'll just leave it there. I'm all for whatever credentials someone has, and God bless you, and you worked hard to get it. But what are you doing with it?
Yeah.
And could you do more with something like FDN? I've made it available, affordable, and practical.
Guys, we have a few more minutes. Then remember, we have a 12 o'clock session. So 34 minutes from now, 12 o'clock Eastern, we'll be talking all about mold. So 3 sessions today for kickoff of Summer Open House. Let's get a few more comments and questions. I love this one already. Nettie, I'm a recent graduate. I started the program in 2017. Life happened over and over, but I kept coming back because I fully believe in this course. Since graduation and posting about my journey through it, I have gained several clients who have all had the same story with their own health journeys. The overall complaint is that they aren't being heard and are tired of all the trial and error. I'm now currently setting up Biocanic. I'm glad to be here. So it's just a comment, but I thought that was awesome because I went through this in 2017. So way to not give up. We understand that life happens. I'm so glad that you not only finished this out, but look at you. You're doing the work. Several clients already. That's amazing.
Hey, I wanted to say this too. FDN course, you can purchase that. You can, pay your tuition, sign up, start the classes. You can't buy the certificate. You earn that.
Mhm.
We have a very good high graduation rate, higher than anywhere I've ever heard about. But it's because we nurture you all the way through the course. Not only are you working on yourself, but you're working on the course with your peers. There's peer groups, peer support, and mentorship. I think I have 10 mentors, helping you get through, um, and learn, and testing you along the way and challenging you a little bit. But the course includes a number of practical exercises that you have to do, and you've got to do well on them. Show your understanding and absorption of the curriculum and the acumen and things like that. And there's a doozy of a final exam and an oral and challenge as well. So you can buy the course, but you can't buy the certificate. It's not for sale. It's earned, and every FDN will tell you that. Talk to any grad and ask them, "Did you earn the certificate?" And they'll go, "Yeah."
Awesome. Juliana, actually, so Juliana, you have to correct me as well. Is it Juliana? Put that as option one, or Juliana option two, because I talked to you guys all month and I hate getting people's names wrong. So I promise I will remember it if you tell me one time. Juliana for one, Juliana for two. Okay. And she even said she's a pharmacist, so I'm not making this up, Nancy, right? You wait to treat the symptoms, not the root cause. It drives her bananas. She said, I believe Western medicine is fantastic for acute conditions, 100%, just not the chronic ones out there. And then I thought she had an additional question there. Oh yes, does the community offer ongoing support and career opportunities post graduation from the program? Yes. Do you want to touch on the job board a little bit because that thing is exploding nowadays?
What is?
The job board.
Oh yeah, I just referred someone to it again this weekend. Um, I referred a physician who asked me, "Hey, where can I hire some FDNs?" I said, "Post your job listing on the job board." So we have a very active and alive association of FDN professionals. That's run by Lucy, who is very dedicated to helping the graduates with all the things that go on. There's support groups there. There's mentorship programs there to help you with whatever you're struggling with. But for those who aren't necessarily entrepreneurial minded, you might just want to get a job as an FDN. And there are physicians and even other FDNs hiring. So yeah, we have a job board.
Cool. And then tons of support on the business side, guys. Like I don't I'm careful with how I say this, but I'm someone who was like the guy that was selling packs of gum out of my locker in seventh grade. So I've always had that kind of entrepreneurial mindset. If you cannot sell FDN to people when 50% of the population in the United States alone is chronically ill, I will say this politely, this is good news. You have a business skills problem. So I said skills. Skills are things that can be acquired. We will help you acquire them because there is no shortage of people who need this. I personally promise you. All right, we'll get like one or two more here. Oh, this was from an anonymous attendee in the Q&A. Sorry, I just got to this. Does your program cover teeth health and how it affects the body and the best treatment options for cavities? What do we say about root canal treatment and implants? So I can help with this. We're not going to get in depth about teeth health there. Remember, we're addressing everything non-specifically. I will say, as someone who suffered with many cavities throughout my life, though, doing the things in FDN had a strong indirect benefit there. If you're looking for this deep of specifics on oral health, what I'd love for you to do, anonymous attendee, is make sure your calendar is clear. I believe it's this Saturday, actually. Yes, it is this Saturday at 11:30 Eastern. We're actually going to have Dr. Michelle Jorgensen on. She's going to be our only weekend event for the entirety of Summer Open House. But Dr. Michelle Jorgensen's coming on. She's a biological dentist, phenomenal presenter, absolutely amazing. So make sure you have that blocked off for 11:30 on Saturday, 11:30 Eastern. But Reed, did you have anything that you want to mention about that? Because yes, we're not getting into all the root canal stuff and every little itty bitty thing, but of course we're indirectly benefiting oral health, in my opinion. And you're muted, just so you know, despite your nice smile.
Oral health is really important. What I found over the years is that the healthier I am, the healthier my gums and teeth are. And so we look at teeth and teeth health as related to the rest of your body. The better you take care of yourself, which would include oral care, the better off you are and the healthier you are. And so healthier people generally have healthier gums and teeth and oral health. But as to whether, what all the direct meridians are and things like that, we don't look into it right now. It's kind of a specialty area,
Mhm.
and it's not included in our training program.
Yep, no worries there. All right, so it is Juliana, but most people call me Jules. Well, we're only on one session. I don't know. I'd feel a little weird calling you Jules. Let me know if like the third or fourth session I can start using the name there. Paul said, "How much is the training?" So let me get you the exact things with the discount. Because remember, there is a discount automatically implied or automatically applied, not implied, for the entire month of June. So for pay in full, it is 9,747 for the FDN program. And we'll say this, oh, we'll beat a dead horse this month. I apologize, but you guys need to know everything that's included. Yes, that's all the mentorship. Yes, that's all the testing. Yes, that's the actual lab tests that are included in the cost of tuition. You get 5 functional lab tests included in tuition. There are no gimmicks or little things where you go through the course and then all of a sudden you're getting charged $500, $1,000 for something else. I mean, it is an all-in-one price. So that's 9,747 for paying in full. We have 2 in-house payment options. And again, I'll post a link for you guys. You can find this all here. I'm just saying it out loud so you have an answer. The 12-month payment plan is $937 a month with this discount. The 24-month payment plan is $526 per month. All of those can be paid off early without prepayment penalties because that comes up a lot. There is the link where you can check out the price below. And then, of course, we have the ability to speak to team members, so I'll drop that for you. Oh, wait, that was already done. Thank you, Amaris. Okay, Reed, any final words of wisdom? Because we are a little bit over 12 o'clock. We'll be back with you guys in 26 minutes for our mold session, but they'll see you later in the month too. Just any final words of wisdom for today?
Well, if you're looking for the 5 freedoms, you found it. And it's just going to be a matter of time before you sign up. I'll say that you don't have to wait till the end of the month. You don't have to sit through these wonderful sessions. Most of them will be about an individual health topic or subject, including the business aspects of being in the business of health entrepreneur, things like that. But you could sign up today. You don't have to wait and just get started. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll be an FDN practitioner. Join the ranks of people who are out there making really good living, doing what they love to do, and feeling good about it.
Awesome. Guys, can we get a final thank you for Reed for hopping on with us today? And also let me know
Thank
who's
you.
going to be
Thank you.
on
You're
at
welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay,
who's
guys,
going to be on at 12
anytime.
Eastern.
All right. Love you guys.